Okay, welcome back for episode 3 of the Amazon Wheel of Time recap and rant. Might be finally seeing a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Some decent stuff happens this episode, so if you're not watching the show, maybe it's worthwhile for you to go ahead and dive in. This episode opens up with a flashback with Nynaeve being dragged by a Trolloc through the streets during assumedly the winter night attack. The Trolloc gets distracted from dragging her and goes to attack and consume another Trolloc that it sees wounded. This is very in line with how Trollocs behave. I'm not surprised by this. The only thing I am surprised by is that Nynaeve is still alive, especially if this Trolloc is so undisciplined that he will drop her to go eat another one. That makes me question if maybe the Murdral had said specific people you can't kill and bring them to me. So this seems like Nynaeve is being dragged to the Murdral, not necessarily to a cookpot. So she ends up using this, this whole distraction of the other Trolloc to run away. She gets back to the sacred pool that we saw in the first episode and hides in it. The Trolloc comes in and begins prodding at the water. It looks pretty good, actually. If y'all don't mind some monsters, it definitely will be for you. The part I kind of object to in this scene is Nynaeve hiding in the water like Rambo, like some sort of commando thing. Like I'm not sure where she's getting this special ops experience, but it's a cool scene. Whatever. I'm not sure how she's able to do it, but her sneaking up behind the Trolloc from inside the water and stabbing it is cool. I don't know if it's earned, but it's cool. So then, having killed the Trolloc, it goes under the water and its blood forms the dragon's fang. And with the murky whiteness of the sacred pool, it kind of forms the symbol of the ancient Aes Sedai. I'm not sure if that's intentional, or if that's just a added a bleed over effect from having it be murky in the first place, and they were just intending the dragon's fang. But they're maybe trying to just send us down the path of, oh hey, maybe Nynaeve is the dragon, and based on the events of episode 4, that seems like that's kind of what this is doing. Now, is that worth it? I would say no. I would rather they did not continue this mystery, but it's what they're doing. So all I can do is kind of push through it and hope that when we come out the other side, we end up with something that's actually good. But we'll see. We'll see. From here, we go back to where we left off at the end of episode 2, with Nynaeve holding Lan at knife point, or sword point. It appears to be the thing that she used to kill the Trolloc, so I guess it's a Trolloc knife. Okay, I covered this last episode, how she would not be able to track them past all these Trollocs and finding them in Barrelon, and then her tracking him again here to a certain point was all justified in the books by her being taught by her father. In this, she specifically refuses to answer how she knows how to do this twice. So I'm curious why that's going on. I don't know if they just realize, oh hey, we wrote ourselves back into a corner with that comment about the wisdom raising her, and we can't just say, oh, my dad taught her how to do it, or she's... I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Maybe she's just playing coy. Maybe it's just like a flirtation thing. I don't know. It's not to my taste. I don't know why they made this change. It did not feel like it was a needed change. It's not for time. It's not really even for character, unless they just don't want her to have a dad. But that seems kind of messed up. Good thing about the scene, though, Lan, even though he is... Because again, in the book, she does track Lan, but she doesn't get this close. She gets to the bushes and is observing Lan and Moraine, and Moraine ends up noticing the presence of a woman who can channel, and that's what gives her away. So she never even had the chance to get this close to Lan, and I don't think that she could have. Sneaking up to Lan's camp, that's impressive enough. sneaking up to Lan's throat is another level of stealth that I don't necessarily understand how Nynaeve learned how to do it. Like she's shown she can do it already in that sacred pool scene directly before this, like almost like they're trying to set it up for this. But why can she do it there too? Like that's not explaining how she can do it. That's just showing us that she can do it already. So if we could get an explanation for why Nynaeve is able to sneak so well, I'd like that. From this, we get an update on the youths from the Two Rivers. Matt and Rand are in the maybe they're in the hills surrounding Shadow Logoth. I'm not exactly sure where this terrain would be precisely, but they're somewhere on the way to Tarvalin still. Caemlyn is not mentioned. It's never been a thing that they were trying to do in the show, so I guess they're just kind of cutting that. And that's something that I can understand them doing for time, just because it was always supposed to be a waypoint, and then from that way stop they end up diverting from Tarvalin to where they eventually go in the book. But I don't necessarily know if it's needed, except to introduce Elaine and the other people in Caemlyn itself. I don't want to say every change is bad just because it's a change. This one I can see them justifying by runtime, and just not wanting to introduce Elaine just to then leave her be for a year and a half. So I get it. I would like to see it because obviously I want to see exactly what I read, but I can't get that, and this is one of the changes that I will forgive. A lot of the other ones I'm not. This is one of the ones that I will. The discussion between Matt and Rand here is it's solid, I guess. You know, the whole discussion of I want to go back. The Trollocs will come back, and Rand makes it clear that he's not necessarily doing it just because the Trollocs will come back if he goes back. He's not wanting to go back because he doesn't think Egwene is going to go back. So we still have him chasing after her. I would like that to end too, but I guess it's compelling to certain groups of people. They want to have this romance going, even though it's not really. It's not something that they really acknowledge in the book. It's something that they are aware of. They both know, like, okay, we were promised, we were supposed to get married and stuff. And through the process of their adventure, they grow apart. They do not have this whole breakup thing directly before they leave. And that the change they made earlier in the show makes this desire to meet back up with Egwene from Rand and Egwene's desire to meet back up with Rand seem hollow to me. I would, again, like, it's just the things they changed, they don't necessarily think through the ramifications of them, and it kind of, seeing this justifies my prior complaints, to me at least. I would like to see them from this point on not make those mistakes again, and we can keep going. But if they keep making these same mistakes, it's gonna divert to a point where we can't even recognize the show as being the same story. From this one, they cut over to Perrin and Egwene through, I guess, the Caroline grasses or something. So they're traveling. There's no Elias. Again, you gotta make certain cuts for considerations for the medium. I don't necessarily know if I would have cut Elias, but I can understand why he doesn't show back up again for how many books? Like 6, 7, 8 books. I think he doesn't show up for another 8 books. So, okay, go ahead. That's fine. Some other stuff later on in this episode where they don't necessarily cut characters, but they just kind of rearrange who does the talking in certain scenes, I have some objections to. But them cutting Elias, I understand. That's another change where it makes sense for the medium. We go from here. We cut back and forth several times in the following next 20 minutes of the show. where it's a little bit of Nynaeve and Lan's, a little bit of Matt and Perrin. I'm sorry, Matt and Rand, and then a little bit of Perrin and Egwene, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So from this point, we do cut back to Lan holding Nynaeve captive. It's just a quick little negotiation where he says, "Hey, I need you to take care of Moraine because she's gonna die if you don't heal her." Nynaeve says, "If she doesn't give me back my people, I'm gonna kill her." And it's a good scene. I actually like this. I don't like the scene before this, which requires her the whole situation with Moraine being out of action to make Lan be at blame for Shatter Logoth is causing problems in this scene and the scene directly before this as well. So again, it's these prior changes that they're making that are not working later. So maybe we can just stop making the changes and use a story that worked. So we get another scene right after this where it's, Nynaeve doing what she said she would do, collecting the herbs to heal Moraine. Lan observes her. You can see the chemistry building. She looks put upon in this clip, but there's other stills throughout this scene where she does not look so upset that he's there. Which and that conflict within herself is something that is very typical of Nynaeve. The only thing I would object to really in this scene is her knowledge of the water bond. That's not something. I mean, in her, a lot of my complaints have been that this added knowledge that the people from the Two Rivers have, and her knowing about how the water bond works. And most people don't know that, and the Two Rivers doesn't even know what most people know. So, and a friend of mine who read the series, that was one of his complaints, was that he did not learn about how the water bond worked exactly until much later on. And I guess moving that knowledge up to the first season is something that he would appreciate, and so I would appreciate them doing this, but I don't appreciate it coming from Nynaeve. If Moraine wants to be open about this and explain it to people, that's something I would love. Having Moraine out of action for last episode and this episode have been a detriment to this show, and that's with me not particularly enjoying Rosamund Pike's version of Moraine. Her not being there has been felt, and it has put the burden of being the voice of knowledge, the person who has experience, onto the people who should not have it. And it is what it is. This is where we're at. But we do learn that the warders can share the pain of their Aes Sedai. We get another dream sequence after this. Very true to form. Balsamon being creepy in the background. We got the whole thing with the wolves is being delved into. We get a shot of a wolf eating at the innards of Layla before she looks at Perrin with blame in her face. She's blaming him for what happens to her. And we can have discussions about the imagery of this. We can have discussions about the meaning of this, but I would have rather, again, if we just didn't do the wife thing, or if we did do the wife thing, have the Trollocs kill her, and have Perrin, lamenting about his rage being what kept him from protecting her. Not that, oh, I killed her, now I want to protect my wife. No, he always wanted to protect his wife. But he has these anger issues when he is exposed to things that are extreme to him, right? In the Two Rivers, he is a very big man. He takes extreme care to not hurt people. And then to have him kill his wife because he didn't take care, because of I guess his rage is the animalistic primal nature of his fighting style, and that. It makes some amount of sense within the pattern that the pattern would have him kill her instead of letting her kill him. It does not make sense from a characterization standpoint to me for the producers to introduce that idea that she's a dark friend in the first place. But I've made my opinion on that known, I think, and then I'm gonna stop beating that dead horse if I can. I probably can't, but I'm gonna try to. From here, we go back to Matt and Rand. Like I said, we cut back and forth a lot. We get Yeah, it's a cool scene. I like the shot. It's neat. It seems like a neat place to do stuff. From here, they go down into the town, and we get introduced to Tom Maryland. This is one of those. Hey, look at this. I'm hopeful again, because this song, while the subject matter of the song, I felt might be a little bit too on the nose. Right, he's just singing about the Dragon Reborn. As soon as the Dragon Reborn walks into the room, I appreciated him singing it. I appreciated him being there, and I appreciate him. His character, his soul is still intact, I think. The patchwork cloak, the patches are on the inside now. They're not as gaudy, and that is a negative in my opinion, but that's a nitpick negative. I will accept as many aesthetic changes as they want to make if they will preserve character, if they will preserve the soul of the story and the whole point of the universe. I will forgive any appearance they want to choose. Like the tacky Aes Sedai clothes, whatever. I don't care. The Tom being in drab clothes, okay, I don't care. That's not what made Tom Tom. Him not having his harp might be more of an actual problem than a quibble. Because maybe he's not a bard this time around. Maybe he wasn't the Queen's advisor of Andor. I hope that's not the case, but without that out of place harp and flute case, we don't have anything to suggest that he was. When we find out, it's going to be just as unbelievable to the audience as it is to the people that this man was a bard. That said, again, they kept his character, like his soul, intact. So when we get to the scene with him, Matt, and the Deadeye Eel, we'll go over how they did that. We cut back to the other group, Perrin and Egwene. They're being herded by the wolves. You can actually see the wolves this time. They're right there, pushing them towards the tracks for the Tuathawan, the Tinkers, the traveling folk, the lost ones. Again, no Elias, but whatever. It's good. We cut back to Matt and Rand. So again, like I said, we're cutting back and forth. We get a minute here, a minute there, a minute there, a minute here, and it's kind of like how the books were formatted. So I appreciate that a bit. I didn't like that in the books, but I do appreciate that they kept that, I guess. We get some dialogue between Dana, the bartender of the inn where Tom was singing, and Rand. She agrees to allow them to stay if they will do some work. Matt, obviously does not do the work because he's Matt. Nice to see that that's still true. Rand gets to work because he's Rand, and nice to see that's still true. After this, I mean, I don't want to say there's things wrong with what comes after this, but I would have done a few things slightly differently. Like my quibbles with her story going forward in this episode are quibbles, if I'm honest. When I first saw her, I questioned, oh hey, maybe is that Min? And then as soon as I found out it's not Min, I was like, okay, well she's obviously going to be a dark friend. So this might have been a good place to introduce Min if they weren't going to do the whole Baerlon thing, because Min literally was a barmaid in a mining town, but that's fine. They didn't. They decided to give us a new character, and then immediately kill her off. I wonder if this is going to be a theme. The other youths find the Tinkers. That's good. You gotta like the Tinkers. They're good people. Some will complain about the aesthetics. Tinkers are supposed to be much brighter than this. I do like that they do have some color at least, but even with them being constantly on the road, even with them constantly traveling, they try and find as bright of colors as they can find. And yes, they might be faded with age. I think Aram maybe is done in a even drabber look than the others to signify that he doesn't necessarily fit in here. because even in the books, even at this point in the books, before his real turn in Shadow Rising, they have him be a little distinct. He is not 100% on board with the lifestyle. You can kind of tell that with him and Egwene and Perrin. So again, like the aesthetic choices here could be fine in my opinion. I don't really care. The qualm I have, the actual problem I have with this episode, or this scene in this episode, is Rain and Isla. Isla and Rain are like not. They don't appear to be a team in my view. They appear to be Isla's in charge and Rain is there. Maybe it's just the nature of the people they cast. I don't know these actresses and actors. They maybe she's just better than him, and so they gave her the lines. But if we just keep coming back to this and only showing the one perspective, I would prefer if we didn't. It is what it is, though. This is the way that we're going to be going, at least for this season, probably the next season. But maybe by season 3 or 4, we can actually have a show that is showing us the dual necessity of the genders, like the fact that we need each other, the fact that it's not good for men to bully women, it's not good for women to bully men. Like, we're supposed to work together to get along, and the miscommunications that can happen between us cause our problems. And we miscommunicate because we are different. And it's not necessarily bad that we're different, because our strength comes from that difference. The fact that you and I are not the same means that we can be better at different things, and then thus be better together than apart. But again, that difference means that you and I don't think the same. So the books delving into that, especially in today's political climate of every side not wanting to look at the other side as having any value at all, it would be a balm. I think it would, at least. I think it would do a lot of work to healing people if they could see this story. If people could go and see that you can overcome together. Like, you can overcome insane odds. You can do the impossible if you don't just discount everyone who's different from you. We'll see if they can recover from this. We get a shot of Lan searching. I've kind of skipped a couple times when we cut back to them, just because there's been so many cuts in this episode. But I do like this shot right here. It's pretty. Not necessarily the scenery itself, but just the framing of it, the composition of it reminds me of like old school Western oil paintings of the man going into the frontier on his horse, looking out upon untouched wilderness and frontiersman lifestyle. He's looking for Aes Sedai camp right now, so it's not necessarily, that's not what he's doing, but it evokes that masculine imagery in my mind, and I like that. I like Lan. I don't think they've necessarily ruined Lan the way they have like Abel Cawthon or other people, but they have done some things at his expense to build up Moraine and others, and to see him striking out on his own, getting things done, it's nice. I like that. We cut back to Tom and Matt this time in the mining town, and the scene starts with Matt gazing up at the Aielman, and Tom approaches and he draws a knife, and so we're like, oh, is he going to attack Matt? Is he your dark friend now? And Matt draws his knife, and it's a very tense standoff, and there's some threats exchanged, and then Tom just walks up to the body, doesn't engage with Matt, he just ignores him, he just turns his back on him with his dagger out even, and he's like, okay, we're fine here. I am confident, and I will show you that I am not a threat by doing that, by literally just walking over here calmly and peacefully and explaining to you that I am here to show the dignity that this man deserves to him. I'm here to bury a dead man. And that touches Matt. Like, Matt is a good person at heart, and he's being corrupted by the dagger. He already, he's not perfect. No one's perfect. And I think some of the changes to Matt have given him a strength of character, shown his strength of character in a way that was not shown in the book at this point. Because we do find out later in the series from stories about him in his time in the Two Rivers that he was always this man. He was always the person who will, do will do morally questionable things, but when it comes to like the hard stuff, he's right. He's on the right side of history in those regards. So he's here. He's doing not necessarily good thing of stealing from this Aielman, but in talking to Tom about it, he ends up doing the right thing as well. He buries the Aielman. He takes the money, and he robs the dead, but he buries the dead, and like that's the least you can do. So it's characterizing Matt as a flawed but good man, which I think is where he starts in the show, in the series, in the books, but we don't get to see it right away. We only are shown the rascal. We're only shown the trickster. We've lost a lot of that in the show, and I think that's to the show's detriment. And instead, we get the gambling, and we get he's still shown as being irresponsible, but it's less in like a mischievous sort of sense, and more in a actual criminal or I don't want to like disparage gamblers, but gambling is not a healthy habit. So whatever you want to call that is well said. So I would like to see them ignore the damage they did to the Two Rivers, because I don't think they can fix it. I would like them to just move forward and make the rest of the world good. So we'll see what they can do. But this scene, as well as the scene in the bar with Tom, have given me a lot of hope for this series going forward. If you have Amazon Prime and you don't want to watch the whole show, I recommend you go watch the one scene with Manetheren Weeps, and then the scene with Tom, and this scene with Tom as well. After this, we get to the title card. Why is Dana doing this? What? Okay, so I have a theory that the reason she reacts like an idiot here is because of ta'Veren, okay? They're talking, they're chit-chatting, they're going back and forth, and she makes a move on him after he shows some vulnerability. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. He turns her down because he doesn't want to do anything because he still hurts over Egwene. I like that too. Her responding by going to the door and locking it and acting like he was suspicious of her is kind of where I'm confused. I don't understand why. I'm not sure where that reaction is coming from. Like it's so like such a out of left field sort of thing for me that I think it has to be ta'Veren. I could be wrong, but that's the impression I got at least. It's overall, I would say it's good. If that is ta'Veren. If it's not ta'Veren, it's just a bad scene that was written strangely. We'll see where it goes, because your boy is now trapped in the room. We cut back to Matt and Tom. They finished burying the Aielman. It's the least they could do. They say some words over him. The words are in character for Aiel. Peace and water. You're good. It's fine. Now, Matt goes back to the room, obviously, and encounters Rand having run away because he uses the power to burst down the door. Good to see they're not changing things too much. Is this reasonable right here? She has Rand's sword, right? In the whole scene with her locking the door, and she grabs the sword and like holds it at points it at Rand, like, okay, well, I'll kill you if you do anything stupid, right? But she then lets him burst through the door. Like he hits the door, and she's like, oh, you'll never get through it. But he hits it hard enough to like make it move a bit, and then she's like, oh wow, he moved it a bit, and he hits it again and bursts it down with the power, goes running, and so sure, he gets those 2 hits because she doesn't think he can make it. She's like, hit it as much as you want, you'll never get through. Oh, he's getting through. Oh, he got through. It was very quick. It was very surprising. I can see why she didn't stab him right away. She goes running through the streets, though, with the sword drawn. And no one says a thing. No one's like, what's going on? these two are not like, she's a dark friend. They're not shouting about it in the books. There are dark friends that approach them multiple times. You know, they get accosted again and again and again by dark friends, and you can just shout, "Oh God, this guy's a dark friend." You can even just threaten, "Hey, I'll shout that you're a dark friend," and it will generally scare them off. So her running around the town so obviously seems wrong to me. Don't worry though, because Tom's gonna solve that problem instantly. So she's standing there going on and on about how the Dark One is actually going to save the world. She wants to bring the dragon to the Dark One so that way she will be the next Ishamael. She will be the one who brought the dragon to the shadow, implying that Ishamael brought Luz Theron to the shadow. I highly doubt that. I really, really hope they don't make that change. I hope that is just a lie that Ishamael has been spreading. We'll see going forward. She says some other stuff here that I find a bit too nihilistic. The wheel keeps turning and people keep hurting. Yeah, okay, but like that is definitely part of the Dark One's attack on Rand. That despair. That we live and suffer and live and suffer and live and suffer. And the answer to that in the books is, but we also love. Like yes, we live and experience pain again and again and again, but every time we live, we get the chance to love again. And I don't necessarily fault the show for expanding the breadth of Dark One motivation. Not Dark One, I'm sorry, Dark Friend motivations. In the books, it's mostly like I can't think of a single follower of the Dark One besides Ishamael who wants to cease to exist. They all, to my recollection, want power. They want to be the king. They want to be the heat. They want to be standing on the top of the remnants. They don't want to destroy everything. They want to tear down the system so that when the dust settles, they're there with their power and their immortality, and they get to rule forever over people who have no option but to submit to them. And I don't know how many dark friends you would find who are willing to just like, oh well, I want the world to end, because I mean, why wouldn't they just kill themselves? Like because then I guess they would be reborn, but that just seems extremely emo. You're like, I don't want to just die. I want to literally never have the chance to live. Like, in a world where there is confirmed afterlife, there is a confirmed continuation of the spirit after your life. Why would people be so quick to want to opt out of that? And why would that be something that you could use to recruit them? Like maybe we're looking at a situation where the different Forsaken all have cults now, and this is like the cult of Ishamael, where you want to go back to nothingness. I don't think that's what they're gonna do. I think this is gonna be kind of like a running theme of it all sucks, destroy it, burn it to the ground. So I hope that's not the case. I hope we get this nuanced culty thing that's a little bit different, but it would be a cool difference. Because again, they are very uniform if they all want power in the books. So adding this where some of them are nihilistic, some of them are power hungry, some of them are just jealous, or whatever other motivations they want to add, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I don't trust these people to do it right though, based on the other changes they've made so far, not paying off almost immediately. So call me intrigued but doubtful. Yeah, again, like let's just applaud Tom here. She's sitting here saying all this like heinous stuff about the Dark One, how she wants to like destroy the entire universe, and Matt and Rand are like, oh no, okay, well you're a woman still, so we're just gonna stand here. And Tom just throws a dagger through her throat, and there you go. Yeah, that's how you deal with dark friends. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. This is what every dark friend deserves. I do not, and Matt and Rand are sitting there like, oh, why'd you do it still? Like they're stammering, they're shocked. even after she said all these things, like they're shocked that Tom would kill her. And so seeing that naivety still is nice. I like that they preserve that amount of the Emmons Field folk. It doesn't make sense with the changes they made to the two rivers so far. But I don't like the changes they made to the two rivers. So if they're just going to act like they didn't make those changes from here on out, okay, let's go. I'm all for it. We can ignore your timeline. Yeah. So let's go to the final scene, which is Lan and Moraine and Nynaeve finding the Aes Sedai caravan. So I'm going to go ahead and hold out hope that the horse Nynaeve is riding right here is in fact Bella, although it does not look like the horse that Egwene was riding in the previous episode. If they killed Bella off, I'm going to be sad. If they literally give us one scene of her pulling the cart to town and then one scene of Egwene saying her name, I mean, it's not the worst thing they've done to us, but it's definitely a bad thing they've done to us. So let's get back to this scene specifically. Moraine is hurt, extremely hurt. She's resting. She's kind of like asleep, drowsing in and out. And as soon as they get to the camp, they're approached by Liandrin. And Lan wakes Moraine up and says, "We need you now." Which, to me, okay. Yes, you're being confronted by a Red Sister, and so she's going to be less sympathetic towards a warder than, say, a Green or anyone else. But there's still other people besides Reds that are with this group. And even a Red Sister, most Red Sisters, not named like Liandrin or Katarina or Galena, would still help a warder with an Aes Sedai with him, or just a warder with them. I don't see why he has to wake Moraine up to talk to them. I don't understand why he can't just be like, she's hurt, I need healing, and she can continue resting from her wound. Again, I prefer if she just was not wounded, because she would have then been the person to give us the info dumps that we've gotten throughout this episode. I don't know. It's strange. It seems like they're suggesting some sort of I don't want to say hierarchy, because there was already a hierarchy, but just a disregard that the Aes Sedai showed towards warders that was not suggested in the books. And like, they can still see Moraine there. It's like, why? It's not even like a disregard for warders. Like, it's just maybe it's just a throwaway comment on Lan's part so that we can get Rosamund Pike to actually have a line this episode. Maybe that's all it is. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see going forward if this show can recover. There were signs of hope. There were some continuing issues that they dug a hole for, and they keep digging at those holes. I prefer if they would stop digging those holes and fill them in. I would also prefer if we just could focus on the things that we like about the show as fans. And like I've just sat here for I forget how long has this been, an hour now? 30 minutes now, complaining about the show and the changes that they've made. And I definitely am upset about the changes that they've made. I don't think that it's something that is unrecoverable, though. I think that it's something that if they put in a lot of work, if they put in a lot of effort to win the fans back, it can actually be good. Now, you look at some of the greatest shows of all time, TNG and things like that. They don't always start off where they end up, and it is less forgivable for something like this, where you have source material to work with, where you can just take that story that's already been proven to work and just adapt it to your medium that you're using it in. And they kind of just didn't do that, and that's where their problems are coming from. I don't necessarily think that they are going to stay committed to these mistakes. I think that the amount of anger that we have shown collectively has been helpful. I think that we, though after we show them that we're upset and we don't like this, we still have to show them that we are willing to engage if they fix it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm going to keep watching. I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna say this is what I don't like, this is what I like, and I'm gonna hope and pray that somebody somewhere on the production staff has the best interest of the fandom at heart, and or even has just participated in it. Obviously, they can't get like Brandon Sanderson to come out there and like be on set for them for every shot. Like that's not reasonable. He can't be in the writers' room writing the scripts for them. Like, he has his own books to write. But if we could get, if they could just hire literally anyone who has read the series a couple times, I appreciate it. Like get somebody like Daniel Green on set. Like, come on, man. What's so hard about that? How much money would he have to be paid to go out there and say, hey, I'll fix this for you? Or Lorne or anybody who loves the show, like just not necessarily loves the show, but like wants to see the show succeed, would be able to fix it. Like you don't have to throw away everything that's happened. Like we can actually salvage this beginning, as terrible as it is, and have something that will work. I don't think they'll do that, but we could. So we'll see. We'll see if it works. We'll see if it gets better. Anybody have any thoughts? Let me know. I appreciate y'all sticking around. Like, subscribe, dislike if you don't like it. I like those too. Leave a comment. Do all the sharing things. Y'all have a good day, and don't trust